first video for 2024. I'm still not back at 100%, but we're going to talk about all 7 new refines for update 8.1 in FEH. Today we got Mini Minerva, Ferdinand von Aegir, Kiria, Leila, Mini Merric, and remixes for legendary Lilina and Corrin. Lots to talk about, so let's get started. First up, our heroic grow refine goes to young Minerva, or Mini Minerva. She's a decently fast Axe Flyer with good defense, and she's the last non-5-star unit to get a unique passive. Dragoon Shield grants IoT Shield and a flat +3 attack and speed and defense. Unfortunately, that's not the strongest ace skill Minerva wants to use nowadays, and the new refine does not include IoT Shield. Most people will probably run something else, which is a shame. Thankfully, the refine for Dragoon X provides a couple strong effects, especially for a heroic grow unit. The base weapon still has accelerated specials. Instead of needing to fight full HP foes, they only need more than 75% HP now, and it will always work on the enemy phase. Minerva gets +4 to all stats, guard, and now heals 7 HP after combat. For the refine, every turn, if Minerva is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets +6 attack and speed field buffs and a breath type cooldown status to herself and allies within 2 spaces. Additionally, if Minerva is within 3 spaces of an ally, she gets another +4 to all stats and full no follow-up effects in combat. Dragoon Shield will probably be replaced, but Mini Minerva now provides breath type cooldown support for her team. That's pretty powerful, similar to legendary Unica. She also grants +6 attack and speed field buffs. In addition to +8 to all stats, slaying, and basically special fighter, Minerva now has full no follow-up, an effect flyers don't normally have access to. Fun fact, Mini Minerva is the latest non-5-star Axe Flyer added, and she is still by far the fastest. She has an interesting free-to-play niche, and no follow-up cements that higher speed focus. For general playstyle, Minerva isn't going to be the absolute fastest, obviously, but she puts in a respectable effort and has no follow-up. She can utilize higher cooldown specials thanks to slaying plus breath type cooldown. Her physical tanking should be decent, but do watch out for magic. In general, you want to add % damage reduction. Guard Bearing 4 and Gambit both are good options. If you want to go for full cooldown Aether, Gambit is better. While I don't expect many to keep Dragoon Shield, it does give IoT Shield, and we just got the new Distant Counter M seal that Minerva can use. If you want, she can tank and spank even archers with that higher defense. For enemy phase, with Slang and breath type cooldown, Minerva can even utilize the new No Quarter special for her own DR piercing. She would charge that in one action. For a more aggressive role, Minerva is a decent Gale Forcer. 4 cooldown Gale Force with breath type cooldown is pretty good for free-to-play units. Guard or no special charge will mess her up though. If you want mobility, Rain Snap grants 3 movement, or you can get 2 space warping via aerial maneuvers. This also comes with Dive Bomb and pair with no follow-up. As long as Minerva outspeeds, she will get those 2 instant hits. Fresh from the legendary banner, Deadly Miasma basically is a player phase Omni Lull, and those haste tiles will stay for the enemy phase. Just be warned that Dragoon X's player phase condition does have a 75% HP condition, so the Savage Blow portion does kinda clash with it. If you want though, jump on the instant damage hype train with Flared Sparrow and Assassin Strike as well. If you want Kanto, Near Trace is there, although we are getting our first tier 4 Trace B skill, so watch out for those in the future. Regarding Minerva's new support power, you can add to that with other buffing skills or mobility skills like Rain Snap and Guidance 4, maybe Infantry Speed Tactic or even Snag 4. You even have Fly Mobility Sacred Seals as well. Lots of options if you don't want to go full combat. Overall, Mini Minerva most likely will replace her unique IoT Shield passive, but her refine is pretty good. Breath type cooldown and attack and speed field buff support is awesome, and she gets no follow-up to fit her higher speed, which Axe Flyers aren't really known for. Slaying plus special fighter is great, and Minerva even heals after every fight. You could run any smoke fours if you want to mix phase it up. Since we just got Arcane 3, a refine with slaying, no follow-up, and team support definitely stands on its own. Next up, our Demo refine goes to Ferdinand von Aegir. You can get a free copy via this month's Ephemeral 1 Divine Codes if you still need more. Ferdy is a lance cav with a somewhat balanced stat spread with decent speed. He gets a new weapon called the Stoutheart Lance. 16 might, and it essentially has 3 HP checks. If above 25% HP, Ferdy gets +4 to all stats and the Unity effect. If he has more than 50% HP, he gets a free follow-up. If above 75%, Ferdy gets +7 true damage on every hit. This base effect is probably a reference to Ferdinand's personal skill from 3 houses. He is strongest when healthy. I wish I was healthy. For the refine, if Ferdy initiates or is near an ally, he gets another +4 to all stats, 40% DR for 1 hit, follow-up denial, and then heals 7 HP after combat. For the most part, fairly straightforward weapon. Ferdy wants to stay on higher HP, so he has that 40% TR and 7 HP healing after combat. He even has a follow-up denial to get hit less. With that free follow-up attack, Ferdy basically has Omni Breaker. He then gets plus 8 to all stats and has Unity to counter stat penalties, plus 7 true damage is appreciated as well. Solid refined that we can build around in a couple ways. For playstyle builds, Ferdy has a couple skills you don't want to run. He works best on high HP, so no recoil damage skills, and probably want to avoid Desperation or Vantage usage. Additionally, since he has built-in Unity, you do not want to run Clash skills because neutralizing debuffs will also neutralize Unity. Speaking of which, Ferdy can join other Unity stat stackers in Legendary Robin's Grand Strategy Club. Triple Unity for 2 stats and double Unity for the other 2 is incredibly strong, and Robin self-inflicts debuffs to proc the effect. If Ferdy were to have like -6 speed, triple Unity will turn that into a plus 30 speed net gain. Add plus 5 from the A skill itself and Stoutheart Lance's base plus 8. Grand Strategy now has a counter, but if not dealt with, Legendary Robin is still incredible for units like Ferdy. In addition, Ferdy can join Fallen Ike with Distant Counter thanks to that new Sacred Seal. If you want to turtle up, add Gambit for more DR and true damage. If you want to be more aggressive, Ferdy can do fine with things like catch skills, and if you build speed, then Flow's offensive follow-up is better than just a free follow-up effect. Flow Refresh 4 is pretty good for Ferdinand since it adds more damage reduction and grants 10 HP healing after combat. You also have some mixed phase fun with Speed Smoke 4 or Panic Smoke 4, and those debuffs will also proc something like Catch as well. Unfortunately, for enemy phase, Ferdy needs to ally within 2 spaces. He cannot be super solo, so you may want Consul to back it up to your friends. Alarm is a good C skill option, but again, we are getting our first Far Trace 4 B skill, so definitely keep an eye on future tier 4 near traces. For some other skills, of course, Flared Spare or Assassin Strike work fine for Ferdy. If you want guard, maybe you can use a tier 3 dual stance or tier 4 boost instead of Unity. For more stat manipulation, Lows can disable enemy field buffs. One thing Stoutheart Lance will lack is cooldown. Heavy Blade is Ferdy's only cooldown skill, and while something like Surge Sparrow would be nice for healing, without no guard or extra cooldown, you really can't guarantee that consistency. If you need cooldown, Arcane Chiang is tough to beat. If you want full speed, Arcane Lewin has that full enough follow-up. That said, Stoutheart Lance has good perks like Unity, Omnibreaker, 40% DR, and Healing Sustain. With Ferdy's balanced stats, this is a very jack of all trades, master of none type weapon. You can also spec into any of the 4 stats depending on what skill variants you got. Nothing super crazy, but a perfectly usable refine for sure. Next, let's talk about Kiria, the last Tokyo Mirage Sessions unit to get a refine. Kiria is a red infantry mage and a rare low speed bulky one. She can definitely take some hits. Her Mirage Rod keeps all its original effects and gets a nice buff, 14 Might Tome with plus 3 attack, similar to Tharja's Refine or the Rain C skills. Kiria inflicts an always active -6 attack and res on foes within 2 spaces. If she has more than 25% HP, she now gets a free follow-up attack and reduces the foe's follow-up attacks with an S by 75% during combat. Kiria does not have any first hit percent DR, but she gets a big 75% DR for follow-ups. This will also affect the quad attacks from brave hits. A bit iffy, but with 20 base speed, Kiria is getting doubled a lot, so we're gonna take it. Further refine, each turn Kiria inflicts -6 attack and res, and the sabotage status on foes within 3 rows or 3 columns, set it on herself. If a foe initiates combat or has more than 75% HP, Kiria inflicts another -5 attack and res, deals true damage equal to 15% attack, and heals 7 HP after combat. Very simple weapon with a couple team support debuffs. Kiria inflicts -6 attack and res field debuffs, and sabotage effectively doubles that to -12. If she's within 2 spaces of those foes, she applies -6 attack and res in combat. This totals to potentially -18 attack and res, not just for Kiria, but for her allies as well. If she is near her team, you may need to be wary of the large amount of debuffs in play. Maybe pair her up with flyers using Rains or Hold skills for more debuff auras, and if you have speed and defense debuffers, then sabotage can double those as well. Now, for Kiria herself, she always inflicts -11 attack and res in combat. With her field debuffs and sabotage effect, that can become -23 total. She has extra true damage and good base attack, so Kiria will hit hard. If not stopped, she can now double and will also heal and has 75% TR for those follow-up hits. For general playstyle, Kiria now offers more debuff support. Her -6 attack and res field debuff can double with sabotage, and if teammates fight nearby, they gain another -6. A savior ally will ensure Kiria at least lands her in-combat debuffs, and you can further support them with skills like distant or close guard. Use the joint versions for extra self buffs. For a simple full tank build, you could use Brazen Stance 3 from the recent Winter Mirabilis Ephemeral with Kiria's default low attack and res, gain guard and block enemy attacker in field boss. However, there's a premium version of this. Instead, you can use this in Defense 4 to block all field boss, and then Guard 4 to not only gain guard, but also 30% DR for the foe's first attack. Another % DR option is No See Disrupt 4, but these only work for one hit. There's no % DR options for that second strike of a brave hit. Some downsides to Dis in Defense 4 or Brazen Stance is that they are enemy phase only. Kiria may not be a typical attacker, but she has 2 movement and a free fall up, even if that's easily blockable. Unfortunately, not that many pure defensive skills for a mage. Instead, Kiria can instead be a decently tanky unit and then have pretty good one-shot burst potential. One way to go about it is Tempo 4 for the half DR piercing effect. If you want a special, Kiria could use a cooldown support like young Minerva, or she could run Pledge in the C slot. Breath type cooldown plus no guard from Tempo will charge Glimmer when taking a hit, and then Kiria fires back and has half DR piercing. Obviously, speed is not the best stat for Kiria, but we only have one Pledge variant so far. You could use Times Pulse, but Pledge also grants a bunch of stats. Sadly, without Sling, it will be tougher to use higher cooldown options like Flare or Iceberg. Flare would be really fun in a tank build though. Now, to add more damage, you could use Finish 4, which adds healing. This could also be something like Unity, or heck, go for the defensive skills like Distant Defense. If you got Legendary Camilla, she can grant half DR piercing, so instead, Kiria could go for something like No See Disrupt or Guard 4. Camilla's DR pierce support could be enough with the full defensive build. For some other skills, obviously Close Counter can work if you want to have fun. For player phase, you can use Remote Sturdy or Mirror, and technically Brash 4 as well. More % DR options. If you got cooldown, Special Sparrow 4 is fun. For self buffs and warping, Oath 4 or Echo are still great. Since Kiria needs to be near allies for her in-combat debuffs, maybe Infantry Hexblade, Flash, or Rush can be used. I don't have them listed, but Ploy and Sabotage 4 could work. However, you overlap stat debuffs, and then you're going to need to stack flat res. Overall, Kiria is going for a heavy debuff focused approach. She has high % DR for follow-ups, but letting foes get to that point is kind of dangerous. She wants % DR for first assist to tank better, and DR piercing can let Kiria one-shot squish her units who can't one-shot her first. It's tough to have both without outside support. If the foe can't deal with those sabotage debuffs, Kiria could be quite annoying, and she can extend that annoyance to help her teammates. Our next unit is Leila, who's a speedy dagger infantry. Leila has a gimmick which is support partner dependent, and unfortunately her cool gimmick released before the advent of a certain skill line that has been prevalent for a long time. Still, let's see what's new for the constant dagger. It grants +3 speed. If Leila initiates or is within 2 spaces of any ally, she gains +5 attack and speed, deals true damage per hit equal to 10% speed, and if she outspeeds or is within 2 spaces of her support partner, then Leila prevents counterattacks. If Leila initiates and is within 2 spaces of her support, then after combat, Leila and her partner swap spaces. If Leila has 2 or more of the same support unit in range, the swap will not occur. So basically, the only new portion is the small amount of true damage. However, the Fire Sweep effect is now able to trigger without Leila's support in range as long as she has higher speed. This is kind of an important change. Now for the Refine, each turn Leila inflicts -6 speed and defense and the Discord status on closest foes within 5 spaces, and it spreads to other foes within 2 spaces. If Leila has more than 25% HP at start of combat, then grant another +5 attack and speed, gain breath type cooldown reduction, and after combat if Leila initiates, she deals 7 damage to the target and foes within 2 spaces. Like Kiria, Leila now has debuff support and Discord as well. However, she needs to be within 5 spaces of an enemy. For her own combat, Leila in total can get +10 attack and speed, true damage based on 10% speed, Fire Sweep, Breath type cooldown, and basically Savage Blow for splash damage. Leila is still pretty fast, so she should double a decent bit. She can proc a special with Fire Sweep safely, but 2-hit lethality will require some help. As for Leila's gimmick, she can swap with her support after combat, so ideally she hops back to safety while someone can protect her. However, you can only have a 2-space range to work with. Warping can help, but Leila's ally needs to be near an enemy she's attacking. Besides needing to set up, Leila released before Savior was a thing. Save skills specifically prevent after combat movement even if the armor unit is not the one being affected. This means if Leila fights a Savior armor, she will not swap with her support. Despite all the nuking out there, you're still going to run into far save, and Leila's gimmick is just not going to work. This is an extremely unfortunate situation, and it ain't getting changed. Not to add more rain on the parade, but we recently just got a new shiny Christmas armor with Far Save, who negates Fire Sweep and dunks on squishy units. Just unlucky timing for a refine. The good news is that for other Far Saviors, Leila can directly attack the armor unit. Far Save doesn't trigger, so swap will still occur. That then brings us back to the question of how practical is a support swap gimmick. It all comes down to your tactics, but honestly, I think it should have gotten buffed. For one example use case, Wings of Mercy 4 has a 2-space warp. Have Leila support fly in, get low on HP, and Leila can warp in. But then what? If that support was a Gale Forcer, maybe Leila can send them in deeper, or maybe set up another Wings of Mercy ally for deeper initiations. With Fire Sweep, you could run double Savage Blow for 21 splash damage, or maybe a smoke debuff to set up more. If you want to set up defensively, Leila's support could be something like a Bulwark user that could block movement for her. Leila really isn't a unit who wants to take any kind of hits. The best change for constant Dagger is that the Fire Sweep effect is no longer locked to needing Leila's support. If you do not want to deal with any of this support gimmick, that's fine. Leila essentially is a high-speed Fire Sweeper with breathtaking cooldown, some true damage, and better Savage Blow. Her speed and defense and Discord debuffs are also nice. If you want some kind of protection, Speed Preempt is an option for ranged advantage. Maybe Leila can get enemies low with Savage Blow type skills to get that one shot. Double Savage Blow is fun, but maybe you want a stat boosting type skill like Oath 4 or maybe Fatal Smoke to mess with healing. For extra damage potential, Hexblade's adaptive damage can help squeeze out that little extra damage. Speaking of which, for a more normal initiation build, Leila can go full offense if you believe in Fire Sweep. She gets no bonus defense or res, so 1% DR skill like Remote Sparrow may not save her even if she gets hit. If you really want insurance, you could try Remote plus Fleeting Echo. For journey usage though, Leila wants no follow-up to double. You can run physical no follow, but we have the Sacred Seal and now a C-skill option. With breathtaking cooldown, this is a good spot for speed and defense tempo 4. Leila could proc 2 cooldown specials on her second hit, or at least charge lethality in 2 hits. You're gonna need outside help for run on lethality, but tempo 4 or no follow-up 4 have partial DR piercing for every other attack. Another damage option is the new Assassin Strike, which can stack on more true damage. If you want to go full squishy, Life and Death with AoE specials will be ready in 2 hits as well. Leila can run Special Sparrow 4 if you want. Overall, Leila's unique gimmick did not get changed, which I think was a missed opportunity. It wasn't exactly easy to use before, and Savior will cancel the swap entirely. Luckily, her Fire Sweep effect was changed to now work when outspeeding, so Leila can be a decent glass cannon Fire Sweeper. She's going to be annoying to most units, but in PvPs or serious modes, the release of Dual Winter Bonnet is just quite unfortunate. Our next refine is our seasonal spot. Young Merric or Mini Merric is a speedy green infantry mage who got some nice buffs. He has a unique special I want to talk about first. Righteous Wind is a 2 cooldown special that boosts damage by 30% speed. It also heals Merric and the team for 10 HP after combat. That's pretty neat. With that in mind, Merric doesn't want to depend on low HP skills, and you don't want to run teammates who don't want to be healed either. Let's now talk about Winds of Change, which did receive some changes to its base effect. Like base Merric, this is basically Excalibur, so it's effective against flying units. It has accelerated specials, and if a bonus is active on Merric, or if he has more than 50% HP, then grant +5 attack and speed, grant full no follow-up, and Merric deals true damage equal to 50% speed on every hit. Sounds familiar. Instead of only field buffs, Merric can now use any status along with just being healthy. He gains true damage on hit based on speed, which his unique special already scales with, so we know what he'll be stacking. For his refine, if Merric initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +5 attack and speed, gain no guard, gain low speed and res, and when special triggers, Merric gets full DR pierce on non-special skills. Similar to Leila, Merric is full damage. Instead of Fire Sweep, he has full no follow-up, no guard, and DR piercing. Merric may not need protection if he just one-shots the foe. Merric's base kit is Swift Sparrow 3 and Wind Sweep. Totally fine with the refine if you want some protection, since Merric has offense and no follow-up to cancel out the downsides. For any build, if you give Merric Time's Pulse, he will instantly have Righteous Wind ready, and that's a full DR piercing special. If you want all the damage, you can run Attack and Speed Finish 4 and Occultist's Strike, 2 more true damage sources for the all-in one-shot playstyle. This has its risks though. For example, Scout is made to mess with this type of build. However, if Merric runs something like Water Sweep or Desperation, he can double those dragons, and since Righteous Wind is 1 cooldown and he has no guard, the special will proc on the second hit guaranteed. planning for a 2-tap could work, especially with Desperation 4, since that can work at any HP if Merric moves 2 spaces. Oath Warping can help get around, and if you want, Merric could also go for higher damage options like Luna or Flare if you have a cooldown perk like Flash Sparrow or Flashing Blade. One benefit to not using Righteous Wind is that Merric will be able to use an attuned skill. For example, it's not ideal, but if you ran the Times Pulse setup with other 2 gun specials, Merric could try to go for a double proc if he gets hit back and doubles. Like Leila, he gets no bonus defense and res, so I would not say this is a good idea, but Remote Sparrow plus Fleeting Echo at least gives 2% dare skills to tank with. Maybe add Guard for more insurance. For our Desperation build, you could use Attack Oath Echo to gain Warping. This leaves the C slot open for maybe something like Pledge, Fatal Smoke, Insight, etc. That could lead to other ace gun options as well. Last guy I want to mention is Speed Preempt with Times Pulse. A Vantage hit with a DR Piercing special would be quite annoying. For the most part, Mini Merric's Refine is quite flexible even if it's a pure offense weapon. No follow-up, no guard and slang plus DR Piercing specials is pretty amazing. I barely even touched on the low speed and res portion, and Merric is basically a magic archer to flyers. Obviously, it's not going to be easy, but if you can outspeed them, Merric will absolutely shoot down all those squishy flying nukes we keep getting. Very solid upgrade for the young mage. Next we have legendary Lilina, who is a red mage cavalier, all in on attack and res. Lilina's bridal ult was basically a better blue version of the legendary ult, but this refinery remix definitely puts red back on top. To start, Lilina has a unique special called Gifted Magic. The remix version states, before combat if unit initiates, foes in an area near target take damage equal to unit's attack minus foes defense or res. After combat, if special triggered, grant Kanto 1 to all allies within 3 rows or 3 columns centered on Lilina. The Kanto effect works even if Lilina dies in battle. First off, Gifted Magic 2 is an area effect special on 2 cooldown. Previously it was weaker to balance out the lower cooldown, but now it does the same damage as the 4 cooldown growing AoEs. Basically, it's just pure attack minus res. If you're not familiar, Gifted Magic has the same pattern as Blazing Wind, which is a simple 1 adjacent space AoE. So, more firepower, and Lilina now has Kanto 1 for herself and allies in range. Far Trace can grant more Kanto movement, but you can run something else and always at least get Kanto 1. For studied Forblaze, it got one change. This 14 Mitomic started specials, and every turn if Lilina's special is at max cooldown, she gets -1 cooldown. In combat, if above 25% HP, Lilina gets +6 attack and res and Hardy Bearing. Studied Forblaze previously only granted -1 cooldown on turn 1, like Quicken Pulse. This is changed to Times Pulse, and since Gifted Magic is on 1 cooldown, it essentially recharges every turn now. Amazing update. As a note, built-in Hardy Bearing is great because Vantage is 1 counter to AoE specials. Not needing the seal also means you can have multiple Hardy Bearing nukers. For her Refine, if Lilina initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +5 attack and res, grant a free follow-up attack, deal true damage equal to 15% res that also applies to AoE specials, and then reduce damage for 1 hit by 30%. Bridal Lilina traded Hardy Bearing for extra true damage, and now legendary Lilina gets both. She also has a free follow-up if the AoE wasn't enough, and at least against other mages, that 30% dare will be helpful. Legendary Lilina has a very simple AoE nuker playstyle, and she can pre-charge her special, doesn't need special spiral, and has the range of a Mage Cavalier. Gifted Magic 2 just does more damage, and Kanto with the new Times Pulse effect just improves ease of use. The only annoyance for Lilina is that Guard can prevent her from recharging Gifted Magic in the same turn. Pick your targets carefully if you have dancers for multiple actions. For builds, Lilina just wants to run double Still Water. +10 flat attack and res, or +12 if you got the tier 4 A skill. AoE specials use flat attack for calculations, and Lilina gains bonus true damage for the AoE based on her res, so you do not want to run Life and Death. This will kill any kind of physical tanking with that 30% DR, but hey, more magical tanking in exchange. There is another build path some may prefer, and that is Flared Mirror with probably a Cultist Strike. Because Gifted Magic is a 1x multiplier of Lilina's attack minus the foe's res, the +7 flat attack from Stillwater 4 will equal the +7 instant damage via Flared Mirror. AoE specials can be reduced by some % DR effects, but instant damage cannot. There are trade-offs though. Flared Mirror will grant flame tiles, but the 7 instant damage does not transfer to the other enemies hit by the AoE. weaker AoE, stronger single target. Occultist's Strike is a good choice since it also has extra true damage, but Lilina gets Sabotage Attack and Res 3 for free as part of her remix. If you go the Flared Mirror route, you give up potentially +5 or +7 flat res. Stillwater helps with Sabotage Res's checks, however Lilina actually really wants Ploy 4 as well. The tier 4 Ploy inflicts Exposure. Exposure grants +10 true damage per hit, and that applies to AoE specials as well. -7 res debuffs with exposure is potentially +17 extra AoE damage. That also is basically 17 extra damage in combat as well when Lilina basic attacks. Sabotage Attack and Res 3 can double debuffs in combat, but you could opt for Cultist Strike if you want to run Attack and Res Ploy 3 instead. Another option is actually the new tier 4 Far Trace skills. They grant +7 true damage, which, yes, applies to AoEs, and Far Trace potentially grants Conto 2 or 3, depending on how far Lilina moved. If you have Ploy 4 support from allies, Incite isn't a bad option for self-attack buffs. Lilina wants attack field buffs, and you want to inflict res debuffs on the foe just for more AoE damage. Generally speaking, speed variants of skills don't help Lilina, but those are what we got at the moment. For some other skills, Savage Blow for more AoE splash damage, Fatal Smoke to deny healing and miracle-like effects. Lilina has Pulse Smoke 3 by default, maybe that tier 4 is a good fit. If for whatever reason you don't have Stillwater 3 as a seal, the Squad Ace BU3 seal provides +3 attack and res. It also isn't going to chunk your defense further and will add +5 HP. Overall, Legendary Lilina got fantastic improvements to her area effect special playstyle. She still has some issues against guard if you want to use dancers, but free Conto 1 is nice, and the new Ploy 4s are amazing for extra damage. Lilina still can't deal with percentary effects that affect AoEs, but this might be where the instant damage of Flared plus Occultist's Strike come into play. Sacrificing some AoE for single target focus might be worth the trade-off. Last up for today is Legendary Female Corrin. Mama is back with a new remix to accompany the New Year's Dragons. This Corrin is a colorless infantry dragon, but like her other recent dragon ults, she has pretty high speed with a good balance of stats thanks to that trainee boost. This Corrin's unique special is Negating Fang, which got a remix, reduced damage from foes attack by 40%. After triggering, Corrin's next counterattack deals bonus true damage equal to 40% of her attack stats. The DR and counter damage both went from 30% to 40%. New to the special is that if the foe has brave attacks, Negating Fang 2 will self-recharge after that first hit, so it can proc again back to back. I believe this is our first back-to-back defensive special, and yes, this is going to proc against pseudo-brave weapons like White Capo as well. Negating Fang 2 will not self-recharge if it's a standard Desperation double. You can think of it like the first attacks with an S. Now, for Primordial Breath, it got one major addition. It still accelerates specials, and if the foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, Corrin gets +5 to all stats, Blade type cooldown reduction, and reduces first attacks, with an S, by a flat 7 damage during combat. The Kana's new inheritables come with female Corrin's flat DR-like effect. Like Brave Corrin's A skill, Primordial Breath grants 7 flat DR against Brave hits, and it works even if Negating Fang doesn't trigger. However, the idea is that Negating Fang applies percent DR, then the 7 flat DR applies after. Very good combo. For the Refine, on turn 1, if Corrin has a defensive special, she gains -2 cooldown. If she has more than 25% HP at the start of combat, Corrin gains up another +4 to all stats, no guard, and an always active 30% damage reduction for all hits, and then heals 7 HP after combat. To no surprise, like Halloween female Corrin, Legendary will also have Shield Pulse baked into her weapon. As part of her remix, Corrin now has Guard 4 in the B slot to use. Back to this remix and Refine, Corrin will have 2% DR effects and 7 flat DR. All of these will work against brave hits. She pre-charges Negating Fang 2 every battle, and as a defensive special, this is unpierceable damage reduction. In addition, on Corrin's counterattack, she deals bonus damage, and Blade type cooldown plus no guard will recharge Negating Fang. This high stat unit then gets another +9 to all stats and 7 HP healing sustain after every single fight. Very solid upgrades with a unique defensive special that will block both brave hits. One thing to note is that no special charge may mess up the recharging for Negating Fang. If Corrin doubles, she should be okay. Another issue is that she can be hit by odd even pulse time, not to mention pulse smoke. Shield Pulse's pre-charge is a one-time only thing. Little bit of counterplay, but Legendary Corrin has a lot of new skills to try out. She isn't the highest res dragon, but with +9 extra res, Corrin can try to make Scowl work. Not taking a special is ideal for any defender, and can give Corrin time to just counter back. Since Corrin is fast enough, she does want no follow-up, so magic no follow-up could be a nice complement to its partial DR piercing. Not as much tanking power, but Corrin may score a one-shot counter, and you can pair this with things like the DC Seal and Oath Force for self-buffs. A more common build will probably be triple % DR using the new Free Guard 4, or bar Brave Corrin's counter Roar 4. Either of those with the new Refine and Negating Fang 2 will give about 70% damage reduction. The enemy then needs to deal with 7 flat DR, and Brave attacks will will be stopped by a second Negating Fang. If you run counter Roar, Corrin gets even more counter damage, and it provides another 7 HP healing. Pair this with Finish 4 for 7 HP healing on hit with 5 extra true damage, Corrin could heal 21 or 28 health after taking a hit. Kind of a crazy amount of sustain. She still wants no follow-up though, so try to get it somehow. You could use the new Infantry no follow 4 C skill as well. Besides Oath or Menace for self-buffing, Panic or Smoke 4 could be fun if Corrin's on her own fighting anyone. It is worth noting that Corrin does not need to be within 2 spaces of an ally for her kit to work. This is kind of valuable because so many units are abusing the Sabotage status condition. Having Corrin be super solo may not be ideal, but not getting hit by debuffs just because you're near your friends has its uses. For some other skills, Corrin has regular distant counter by default. Finish 4 or Scowl feel way too impactful not to run, but if you want, Corrin can use her at DCA skill and its upgrades. If you want to abuse stats, Unity for debuffs or bonus doubler if you got full team field boss. Now, let's say you pair Corrin with her new legendary Big Sister. Camilla could provide partial DR Pierce for damage, so maybe something like Nelsie Disrupt can be used to fight against Fire Sweep. Remember, if Corrin doesn't counter, she can't recharge Negating Fang. Nelsie Disrupt 4 is another % DR skill as well. Overall, Legendary Corrin got a good refinement remix. For now, the only defensive special that can proc against both Brave attacks, and Corrin has a lot of ways to stack % DR with her flat DR, not to mention a lot of healing opportunities. You then have multiple counterattack and burst damage options, and this unit is fairly fast with just a ton of stats all around. Like her other dragon ults, if you don't outspeed her, things can get out of hand very quickly. Even if you have DR Piercing, Negating Fang works against melee and ranged attacks. That's going to be it for this big batch of refines. Not a bad group to start off 2024, although I'm disappointed Leila's niche didn't really get updated. Would have liked to see some changes there. For our free-to-play units, I would say both pretty good refines for Minerva and Ferdinand, not game-breaking but unique enough. As for our legendaries, 2 solid upgrades leading into both unit strengths. We had Supreme Ash's back-to-back offensive specials, and now we got the same for a defensive special, although only for brave hits. I wonder if we're going to see more back-to-back special type kits in the future. Let me know your thoughts on this month's refines, and please share your own builds with everyone else. Next up, we're going to talk about the upcoming New Heroes banner. Though Reinhardt returns, and he's sharing his arcane skills. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video.